Your face just did something. Maybe it was a minute ago, maybe an hour, maybe it was yesterday and you have already forgotten. But somewhere close to you, something was wrong. Milk that had turned, gone thick and sour in the carton. A bin left a day too long in the heat. A scrap of meat with a green shine at the edge, slick and glistening in a way meat is never supposed to shine. And the moment it reached you, before your slow, clever mind had said one single word about it, your face moved on its own. The nose wrinkled up toward the eyes. The top lip peeled back off the teeth. The head pulled away, all by itself, as if on a string. And maybe a sound came out of you, that low ugh from the back of the throat that nobody ever taught you to make. You made the face. You did not choose to make it. You did not decide the meat was dangerous and then arrange your features to say so. The face came first, ahead of the thought, quick and sure, the way your hand flinches off a hot stone before you feel the burn. And here is the part that should stop you. It is not your face alone. It is everyone's face. A person on the far side of the world who does not share one word of your language makes that exact same face at that exact same rot. A small child who has learned almost nothing yet makes it. Pull the corners of it apart and it is the same everywhere, the same wrinkled nose, the same curled lip, the same recoil on every human who has ever lived. And look at what that face is actually doing, because it is not just a grimace, it is a machine going to work. That wrinkle climbing your nose is pulling your nostrils half shut, narrowing the road that the bad smell travels down into you. The lip peeling back and the tongue pushing forward is your mouth getting ready to reject, to push out, to spit, to keep the foul thing from ever going down your throat. The eyes squeezing to slits are guarding themselves closed. Every part of that ugly expression is a little door swinging shut. The face is not merely saying, "I do not like this." The face is your body physically sealing its own openings against a thing it has already decided is a threat. It is a wince, yes, but it is a wince with a purpose, worked out over more years than you can hold in your head. So where did that face come from? Why does a bit of spoiled meat reach into you and pull that string before you can think? And why, of all the things in the world, is it rot and ooze and the crawling and the reeking that flips this one particular switch in every single one of us? I am Og. The wind has turned tonight, and it has carried me something dead from down the valley, so my nose is shut like a fist and my supper has lost its charm. Which is a fitting night, then, to talk to you about that face you make. Because I have made it 10,000 times, crouched over meat that had gone the wrong way, and I never once thought there was anything clever in it. It felt like nothing. It felt like a small, ugly reflex, a bit of weakness, a fussiness I would be a little ashamed of if I stopped to look. And that, I have learned, is exactly wrong. That face is not weakness. That face is one of the cleverest things your body does, and it is old, older than your kind. And tonight I am going to show you that the little wave of disgust you feel at the back of your throat is nothing less than a second self keeping you alive. Let me start with a thing you already carry and never think about. You have an army inside you. In your blood, in your gut, in the wet dark of you, there is a whole host of tiny soldiers whose only work is to find the germ that has gotten into you and kill it before it kills you. You know this already. When you run a fever, when a cut goes hot and sore and then heals, that is the army at war. It is a wonder, that army, but look closely at when it fights. It fights after. It fights once the enemy is already inside the walls, already in your blood, already doing you harm. The army is the last defense, not the first. By the time it draws its sword, the thing it is fighting has already gotten in. Now, picture a second defense, standing further out than that army, one that stopped the enemy at the door and never let the germ into your body in the first place. No fever, no war, no wound to heal, because the danger was turned away before it ever touched you. That would be worth more than any army, would it not? A wall is always cheaper than a battle. You have that second defense. You are using it right now, every day, without knowing. It is not in your blood. It is in your face and your gut turning and your feet stepping back. It is that recoil, that wrinkle, that no your body says before the rotten thing ever reaches your mouth. The scientists who study this have a plain name for it, and I love the name because it says the whole thing at once. They call it a behavioral immune system, an immune system made not of blood but of behavior, not soldiers but a guard at the gate who keeps the enemy from ever getting in. And the feeling that guard speaks with, the only voice it has, is disgust. That curl of the lip is the guard slamming the door. Now, I told you I would give you proof, not just a pretty story, and here it is. This is the part I most want you to carry away tonight, so hold still for it. In the year 2004, a scientist named Valerie Curtis, with two others, Aunger and Tamer Rabie, set out to test whether this feeling really was a shield against disease or just a habit of taste. And they did something clever. They put a survey out into the world where anyone could answer it, and enough people came that the number is hard to hold in your head. Around 77,000 people, from 165 different lands, every kind of person, every corner of the earth. And what they showed those 77,000 people was pairs of pictures, two at a time, side by side, and one question: which of these two is more disgusting? But the pictures were built with a trick hidden in them. In each pair, one picture carried a real hint of disease, and its partner did not, though the two looked much alike. A cloth stained with what might be body fluid, set beside the same cloth stained with plain blue dye. A plate that looked diseased beside a plate that looked merely dirty. The same shape near enough, but one whispering sickness and one not. And across all 77,000 people, across all 165 lands, the answer came back the same. The picture that carried the hint of disease was called more disgusting, again and again and again. It did not matter where the person was born, what tongue they spoke, what gods they kept. The thing their disgust reached hardest for was the thing most likely to make them sick. The guard all over the world was watching the same door. You have felt this yourself at a table in company. Someone passes you a dish, and something about it is off, the smell not quite right, a color where no color should be, and your whole body knows it before your manners can catch up. You lean back a hair, your throat tightens. You find some polite reason to leave it sitting on the plate. You did not run it through your mind and weigh the risk. The guard simply stood up inside you and said no, and you spent the rest of that meal quietly obeying him without once admitting it out loud. That happens to you more often than you would ever guess. Most of the time you call it not being hungry or not being in the mood. As often as not, it is the guard. That is not taste. Taste changes from valley to valley. You would not eat what your neighbors eat, and they would turn up their nose at your feast. But this went underneath taste, down to a place where all of us are the same, and every single one of us flinched hardest at the road disease travels down. So what does the guard watch for? What are the shapes it has learned to fear? Once you know them, you will see them everywhere in your own disgust, and you will never unsee them. Rot, first of all, the sweet sick smell of meat gone wrong, of a thing that is decaying. Ooze and slime, the wet and the weeping. Waste, the body's leavings, which you will not go near even when it is your own. The crawling things, the maggots and the flies and the swarming, because they are the mark and the carriers of the dead and the foul. And the sick themselves, the sores, the coughing, the fevered, from whom your body wants to pull away even as your heart wants to help. Look at that list again. Rot, ooze, waste, the crawling, the sick. Every single one of them is a place where disease gathers and waits. The guard cannot see a germ. No eye can. The germ is far too small. So the guard learned, over a length of time you cannot picture, to watch instead for the shapes that disease travels in, the sights and the smells that go along with it, and to slam the door on all of them on sight, no questions, guilty until proven safe. And me think that is the whole genius of it. Your body found a way to see the invisible by watching the tracks it leaves behind. Now let me be honest with you, the way I always try to be, because a good guard is not a perfect one, and this one has its faults. He is blunt. He is overcareful. He slams the door on plenty of things that would never have hurt you at all. A good cheese that smells of old feet is perfectly safe, and your nose recoils from it anyway. A harmless little bug crossing the floor sends a shiver up you it has no right to. The guard cannot tell the difference between a true threat and a thing that merely wears the costume of one. He does not stop to check. He would rather turn away 100 harmless things than let one true sickness through. And when you think about the stakes, back in my world, where a single bad mouthful of meat could lay you down and there was no one coming to save you, that trade makes a hard kind of sense. Better to waste a good cheese 100 times than to die once of the one that was truly rotten. The guard keeps his job by being too cautious, not too little. There is more the study found, and this is where I will slow down and mark my words carefully, because now we cross from the things we can count into the things we can only reason about, and I will not sell you a guess as if it were a fact. The 77,000 answers held some patterns inside them. The women as a whole felt the disgust more strongly than the men. Younger people felt it more sharply than the old, and every one of us, it turned out, recoiled harder from the leavings of a stranger than from the very same leavings of our own kin. Now why would that be? Here the scientists reason it out, and I give you their reasoning as reasoning, not as carved stone. The woman who carries and tends the young pays a heavier price if she falls sick, and so a stronger guard would serve her and her children well. The young have more years of life still ahead to protect, more to lose from a sickness, and so a sharper alarm makes sense while the body is still building its future. And the stranger carries germs your body has never met and never learned to fight, while the sickness that lives in your own family is one your blood has likely already made its peace with. So the guard leans out further, sniffs harder, at the one whose troubles are new to you. It is a beautiful piece of thinking, all of it. But it is thinking and untangling after the fact, and not a scratch we can point to. Hold it loosely the way I am holding it, and there is one more honest wrinkle, and this one is not pretty, and I will not file it smooth to make a tidy tale. A guard this old and this blunt does not always aim at rot. Sometimes he aims at people. The very same recoil that keeps you from bad meat can be turned, and has been turned all through our long story, against the sick, against the outcast, against the stranger who did nothing wrong but look unfamiliar. The feeling does not know the difference. It just fires. It is the same curl of the lip whether the thing in front of you is a rotting scrap or a person who deserves your kindness. And that, I think, is the one place where knowing all this matters most for how you live. Because a feeling you understand is a feeling you can question. When that old guard flares up at a person, you can be the clever mind that comes in a half-beat later and says, "Wait, that is not rot. That is a fellow human. Stand down." The reflex you cannot help. What you do the moment after it, that is all yours. You want to see the whole thing at work, plain as day. Watch a small child. My own boy, Tem, no higher than my knee, reached one day for a hunk of meat I had let go too long, drawn to it the way small hands are drawn to everything. And before I could even catch his wrist, before he had the words to know what rot was or why it was bad, his little face had already done it. The nose wrinkled, the lip curled. He pulled his own hand back and looked up at me, and the guard in him, brand new and already on duty, had turned him away all on its own. Nobody taught him that. I did not have to. It came with him the way it came with you, the way it came with every child born since long before my kind walked the earth. And here is a thing that tells you just how old this guard is. He does not belong to us alone. Watch almost any creature, and you will find some version of him at work. A beast will step wide around its own kind that has fallen sick. It will not foul the corner where it sleeps. It will turn from meat gone to rot when hunger has not yet driven it desperate. The guard was already on duty long before there was a human face to wrinkle, standing his watch in creatures that lived and died in a world with no name for anything. What our long line did was take that old animal caution and sharpen it, and hang a feeling on it so sure and so quick that a picture alone, just a picture on a screen, can turn a stomach on the far side of the world. So think about how deep that runs. Before your true ancestors ever lit their first fire, before there was a word for sickness or a word for anything, the living things you come from were already making that face, already pulling back from the rot, already turning away the germ at the door. The ones who felt no disgust, who ate the fouled meat and drank the bad water and slept easy beside the dying, those ones took sick and left fewer children behind. And the ones who wrinkled their nose and stepped away, they lived, and they had children, and those children had the same wrinkle in them. Down and down the long line it came, that small, ugly, life-saving face, one careful ancestor to the next, all the way to the face you are wearing right now. So let me bring it home, because this is the part I really want you to keep. The next time your milk has turned, and you lift the carton and your whole face folds in on itself and your head snaps back, do not be a bit ashamed of it, the way I used to be. Do not call it squeamishness or weakness or being fussy. Stop for one heartbeat and know what you are really looking at. That recoil is not a flaw in you. It is a guard, the oldest guard you own, still standing his post at the door of your body, doing the exact same work he did for a stranger who is now a fossil, who wrinkled that same nose at that same rot 100,000 years before you drew breath. You never chose him. You never trained him. He came with the body, part of the deal, and every single day, most days without your ever noticing, he turns some small invisible danger away before it can ever get in and make you its own. You think of disgust as a small and slightly embarrassing thing, a wince, a shudder, hardly worth a second look. Turn it over and look at it properly, and it is the opposite of small. It is a shield you were born wearing. It is your ancestors, reaching all the way down the years, still keeping you alive. So here is what I would truly love to know, and I mean it. Tell me down in the comments. First, the easy one. What is the one thing that turns your stomach worse than anything else in the world? The smell, the texture, the sight you cannot bear. Everyone has their own, and I want to hear yours. And then the better question, the one I am really curious about. Is there something that near everyone else finds disgusting, that does nothing at all to you? Some rot or slime or crawling thing you can face with a steady stomach while the rest of us flinch away? Tell me that too. Because your guard and mine were built to the same plan, but no two of them were ever set quite the same, and I want to know where yours stands watch and where it sleeps. I am Og, and this whole channel is about the body you are sitting in right now, and all the old machinery still running quietly inside it, long after the world it was built for is gone. That guard at your door is one piece of it. There are 100 more, hiding in plain sight, in things you do every single day and never think to question. So stay with me and come find the next one. Next time I want to show you why a sudden loud sound can turn your whole body to stone before your mind has even caught up, why you freeze first and understand second. Because no matter how new and clean and far from the fire you feel, the truth is the same as it ever was. Something reached your nose today, and your face pulled back before you could think, and in that small, ugly flinch you were doing the exact same thing your ancestors did 100,000 years before you were born. You did not choose it. They did not choose it either. And your body still remembers.